unrivaled, and just do you have any information on that?
I don't have any information. I haven't spoken to our medical staff yet.
Yeah, Steph, what did you think of the rally that your team had in the fourth quarter, particularly when it comes to Caitlin? I think she made 5 threes in that fourth quarter, more than her first 2 games combined. So just your thoughts on the resilience from her.
I thought our whole group showed resilience, in that rally. We showed the ability to make tough shots. We had some really good time and score execution moments, offensively and defensively, in those moments. We just have to have more of it consistently.
Those second and third quarters felt like things kind of slogged for you guys, especially offensively. What was the difference in those 2 quarters?
It was our defense. I mean, we put a lot of pressure on our offense to be perfect when we don't consistently defend. Again, and this is on us as coaches. Like, this is our responsibility. We got to be disciplined the entire game. We got to be disciplined every possession. We're taking chances. We're fouling shooters who are about to shoot tough shots. We got breakdowns in coverages. We got to find combinations of players and rotations that's net efficiency can be good. And we can't wait to play defense, in situations where we feel good and we're making shots. It seems like we're making shots and everything's flowing and we got energy on the defensive end. And when we're not, we don't. And it's got to be the other way around. The energy has to be dictated on that end of the floor. And that's a mindset.
You just touched on a lot of it, but, they have 58 points in the paint tonight, especially start overtime. They were getting there a lot. What's Hughes missing?
Caitlin Clark is only 2 years into her professional basketball career, and she's already doing things that took legends a decade to accomplish. Let that sink in for a second. We are watching history happen in real time, and some people still want to argue about whether she belongs. She belongs. And Friday night proved it all over again. The Indiana Fever hosted the Washington Mystics in what looked like, on paper, a pretty routine out-of-season matchup. 2 teams sitting at 1-1, both trying to find their footing, both trying to figure out what kind of squad they're going to be this year. Nothing too dramatic about that on the surface. But when Caitlin Clark is on the floor, routine goes right out the window. It always does. That's just who she is at this point. Before the game even tipped off, there was a ceremony at center court. A pre-game recognition for something Clark accomplished just days earlier in the Fever's season opener against the Dallas Wings. And look, if you're going to be honored before a game in only your 3rd professional season, you probably did something worth talking about. Clark did something worth talking about. In that opener against Dallas, Caitlin Clark scored her 1,000th career point in the WNBA. 1,000 points. Now you might be thinking, okay, 1,000 points. That's a nice number. But players reach that milestone all the time eventually. What's the big deal? Here's the big deal. She did it in 54 games. 54. That's not just fast. That's a level of fast that nobody in the history of this league has ever touched before. But it wasn't just the points. To really understand the magnitude of what Clark did, you have to look at the full picture. She reached 1,000 points, 250 assists, and 250 rebounds, all in those same 54 games. That's a combined statistical threshold that measures complete, well-rounded players. Players who don't just score but who make their teammates better, who crash the boards, who impact the game in every single phase. And Clark got there faster than anyone ever has in the history of the WNBA. The record that she broke belonged to Diana Taurasi. Let's just pause on that for a moment. Diana Taurasi, one of the greatest players this sport has ever seen. A legend by every measurable definition. Taurasi held that record for years, and she set it in 6-2 games. Clark beat it by 8 games. 8 games ahead of a player that most people would put on their all-time starting 5 without a second thought. That's not a small deal. That's not something you gloss over. That's a seismic shift in how we have to talk about Caitlin Clark's ceiling. LeBron James congratulated her publicly. You don't need any more context than that when one of the greatest athletes on the planet stops to acknowledge what you're doing. It means the moment is real. It means people outside the bubble are paying attention. And they should be, because what's happening with Clark is not a storyline created by media hype. It's being written in the record books in real ink. So the Fever honored her before tip-off against the Mystics. The crowd was into it. The recognition was real. And then the ball went up, and Clark did what Clark does. She went to work immediately, early in the game, with Indiana trying to build separation. Clark found Sophie Cunningham for a bucket that extended the Fever lead. That pass, that read, that decision to trust a teammate in a key moment, that's the stuff that doesn't always make the highlight reel, but it's the stuff that wins basketball games. Clark's ability to operate as both a scoring threat and a playmaker at the same time is what makes her so difficult to guard and so valuable to this franchise. And she kept producing all night long. By the time the final buzzer was about to sound in regulation, Clark had poured in 32 points. 32, along with 7 assists and 4 rebounds. On a night when she was being honored for her career achievements, she went out and reminded everyone in that building exactly why those achievements exist in the first place. But the most electric moment of the entire night came in the final second of regulation. Indiana was down, the clock was bleeding out, and Caitlin Clark had the ball. 1 second. The kind of moment most players avoid. The kind of moment that separates the ones who want the ball from the ones who need it. Clark pulled up and drained a three-pointer as the buzzer went off. Ice in her veins. The building erupted. Overtime. That shot was everything. That one moment encapsulated exactly why this player has captivated an entire country. She does not shrink. She does not play it safe. She does not defer to the moment. She attacks it. Every single time. And in a league that has produced some of the greatest competitors the sport of basketball has ever known, that mentality puts her in incredibly rare company. Unfortunately, overtime didn't go Indiana's way. The Washington Mystics found a way to hold on, winning 104-102 in a heartbreaker that left the Fever at 1-2 on the season. After everything Clark did, after that buzzer beater, after 32 points and 7 dimes, Indiana still couldn't get the win. That's basketball sometimes. The individual performance can be extraordinary and the scoreboard can still go the wrong way. It stings. It's supposed to sting. But here's what doesn't change after a loss like that. The record still stands. The ceremony still happened. The 32 points still went in the books. Clark's place in WNBA history is not determined by one overtime loss to the Mystics in May. It was already being determined long before Friday night, and it will continue to be shaped by moments just like that buzzer beater that nearly stole the game. The Fever now turn their attention to Sunday when they welcome the Seattle Storm to Indianapolis. Another chance to get right, another chance to get back to 500, another chance for Clark to do something nobody has ever seen before. Because at this point, that's just the expectation. Not because it's fair to put that kind of pressure on a player in only her 3rd year, but because she's the one who set that expectation by breaking records that nobody else could touch. 54 games, 1,000 points, 250 assists, 250 rebounds, faster than Taurasi, faster than anyone. And she's just getting started. If that doesn't get you excited about where this is all heading, nothing will. The WNBA has a generational player. Indiana has a franchise cornerstone. Basketball fans everywhere have a reason to tune in every single night she laces them up. Caitlin Clark is not a moment. She is a movement. And Friday night was just another chapter in a story that is nowhere close to being finished.